Beaudry here with Crystal's Clean Kitchen. So generally on my channel, I try to do things that are low carb friendly, maybe even keto approved, or just really clean way of eating. Well, my kids approached me a few months ago and said, Mom, can you just make us macaroni and cheese? Now we generally try to stay away from grains and also processed things. So I'm thinking to myself, what can I do to make this a little bit healthier? So you guys, this recipe that we're making, it's a macaroni and cheese hot dish. It is packed with protein and it's completely grain-free. And not only that, but most macaroni and cheese hot dishes just don't taste very good. They're super dried out. There's not enough cheese to it. Not with this one. It is going to be super, super cheesy even the next day, I promise. You can take this for lunch or have it as leftovers the next day and it will be just as good as it is the first day. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget though to hit that like button. All right, here is everything that you are going to need. We are going to be starting with 6 tablespoons of some grass-fed butter. For our pasta, I'm going to be using this brand. It's called Banza, and I got this package from Costco, so it's a larger package with 5 bags inside. Now, I'm going to be using 2 of the bags, so they're 8 ounces each, so you're going to be needing 2 8-ounce bags of noodles, whatever kind of noodles that you prefer. I know this brand also has it in actual macaroni form, so you can get that if you want. I'm just going to be doing the rotini ones because that's what Costco sold. So 2 8-ounce packages of the noodles. Then we're going to be doing some cheese. We're going to start with cheddar cheese. You need 6 cups of shredded cheddar cheese. Then we're going to be doing 2 cups of mozzarella cheese. We'll be shredding that as well. Now to thicken our stuff, instead of using flour, which is what a lot of people use, I'm going to be using some tapioca flour. You could also use arrowroot powder. They are very interchangeable. Then you're going to need 2 cups of some heavy whipping cream and 1 cup of milk. Now I always use almond milk, but you can use whatever kind of milk that you prefer. Then for our spices, I'm going to be using, I don't have it out here, but I'm going to be using some paprika, 1 teaspoon of paprika, 1 teaspoon of mustard powder. If you don't have mustard powder, you could also use Dijon mustard, and then you would just use that 2 teaspoons of Dijon mustard. But I always have mustard powder, so that's why I'm using the powder. And then you need about 1 teaspoon of some garlic, 1/2 teaspoon of some onion powder, 1/4 teaspoon of some black pepper, and I will also be using 1 tablespoon of some Celtic sea salt. All right, let's get started. So I've started by boiling my water for noodles. I put my meat on the stovetop. I sprinkled it with some salt, and of course I'll be flipping it and cutting that into smaller pieces as I go. So normally I'm shredding the cheese by hand, but because there's so much of it, I just whipped out my Cuisinart, and I'm going to be using this. I actually bought this on Amazon Prime Day, and I saved so much money. Okay, so I cut the cheese in kind of like smaller pieces so that it fits at the top, and then I'll just be shredding it. All right, so as I took it out of the machine, I measured it just to make sure I know approximately how much I have. You don't have to be completely exact. So if you have 5.5 cups, don't worry about it. It's fine. And then also I'm gonna be mixing them together, so I have a little bit left of the cheddar, and that's okay. All right, my noodles are cooked. I'm just going to spray them with some cold water just so that they don't continue to cook and then get mushy. I have my 6 tablespoons of butter. I'm just going to let that melt completely, and then I'll be adding in the tapioca flour. All right, now that my butter is totally melted, here's my tapioca flour. Now you want to whisk this. This is what is going to make it thicker. As you can see, it's nice and thick. I'm going to keep stirring it. Let it brown a little bit. So I've cooked it for about 2 to 3 minutes. Now I'm going to be adding in, I've mixed together the heavy whipping cream and the milk. Then I'll just slowly add this. Now I'm going to let this reduce a little bit. I'll be cooking it maybe another 3 minutes, and then I'll add the spices, and then I'll cook it maybe another 3 or 4 minutes after that, because I do want this to reduce a little bit more. So I have been actually letting this cook for about 10 minutes because my milk and heavy whipping cream were super, super cold. So I had to do it a little extra. But now I am going to still cook it more. I'm just going to be adding in my spices now. So I'm adding in my 1 tablespoon of some mustard powder, 1 tablespoon of onion powder. We're doing about a half a teaspoon of some pepper, 3/4 to 1 teaspoon of some garlic. I'm also adding in some more salt. Now I used some of the salt when I was making the beef, and then I'm using the rest of it for this. I'll stir that up, and then I will let this cook for another probably 3 to 4, maybe even 5 minutes, depending upon how hot and how thick that is getting. If your stuff is cooking at a faster rate than this, just remember to keep stirring it because we don't want this mixture to get too clumpy. And I've done that once before. I just maybe didn't stir it enough and it got super clumpy. So I don't want that. So just make sure to keep an eye on it, stir it when needed so that it doesn't lump up. Continuously letting this cook, and I can tell that this has really thickened up. And now I'm going to be adding in my cheese. I'll be adding it in slowly and letting it melt and then adding in a little bit more. And this is going to make a beautiful cheese sauce. Okay, so the cheese is melted. This is how it looks. It's like a thicker consistency. All right, so now that I have everything ready, I'm going to be putting it all back into this pot and giving it a good mix. If you notice, my beef is not fully super overcooked because I'm going to be putting this in the oven and I didn't want the beef to be crazy done. So I'll be mixing it all together. I've tried mixing this into a 13x9 pan before and it spilled. So that's why I mix it in here and then I transfer it to a 13x9 pan. So this pasta that I make it, like I said, in a 13x9 dish, and it is good for the rest of the week usually. It lasts for quite a few days, and everybody always fights over the leftovers. All right, so it fit into my 13x9 pan perfectly. I did save about 2 cups of cheese for the top. You don't have to do this if you want to, but it does look really cool when you have a little cheese at the top. Then I'm going to be baking this at 350 degrees for about 15 minutes. The last couple of minutes I will broil the top just so that it gets really nice and dark and perfect. All right, I took this out of the oven. I let it cool down a little bit. Let's cut into it. All right. It's going to be extremely cheesy. Oh, yum. Here it is. Now, it would have stayed more firm if I let it cool down a little bit more. I'm kind of excited, though, to dig into this, but it seriously is going to taste so amazing. So I called my son downstairs. He is super excited to taste it. You ready, buddy?
Yeah. The cheesiness is awesome.
It's super cheesy. You guys, once you try this, this meal will be on rotation at your house because your kids are going to love it. Do you guys love it when I make this?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching. Again, this is going to be perfect for leftovers the next day. It's going to taste just as good and you're going to love it. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already and stay tuned for some more great recipes. We'll see you next time.